welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty universal, love. A lot of you suggested we look into 8 Rules of Love by Jay Shetty.
Yeah, so we've spent some time with it, really trying to, get to the heart of what he's offering.
And it's kind of amazing, isn't it, how we mostly navigate relationships based on, well, what we see around us.
Exactly. Movies, songs, maybe what our family was like. There's not really a class for this.
Right, it's like you're just supposed to know.
Yeah.
Shetty's book, though, it tries to give more structure, moving away from just vague ideas about love.
Towards actual practical things you can do, steps. He talks about life being like these different ashrams or classrooms for learning about love.
Interesting framing.
And today we're digging into the very first one. It's called Brahmacharya.
Okay.
And the focus is solitude, learning to love yourself.
Okay, so the core idea, basically, is you need to get good with yourself first. Build that self-awareness, self-love, before you can really connect properly with someone else.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's the foundation he's laying out.
All right, let's unpack that. Rule number 1, let yourself be alone.
Yeah, and it's funny how uncomfortable being alone can make people feel.
Totally.
And a lot of that, he argues, comes from how we're conditioned. Being called a loner isn't exactly a compliment, is it?
No, definitely not. It feels like something's wrong if you're alone too much.
But Shetty flips that. He says solitude isn't just okay, it's actually, vital for understanding yourself.
How so?
It's in those quiet moments, apparently, that you can really identify what you enjoy, what your deep down values are.
Okay, makes sense. Getting away from the noise.
And he points out it helps develop qualities you need for relationships anyway, like compassion, empathy, patience, things that require a bit of inner space.
And there's actually research on this.
Yeah, he mentions a study about people visiting an art exhibition, those who went alone. They reported it being more thought-provoking, more emotionally stimulating.
Interesting. So less distraction, maybe deeper engagement.
It seems like it. More chance for personal reflection, connecting with the experience on your own terms. It kind of suggests that solitude allows for a deeper way of engaging with life, maybe?
And you mentioned something about talented teens.
Oh, right. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's work. He found that even for really talented teenagers, not having enough alone time could actually get in the way of them developing their skills properly.
Wow. So solitude isn't just about feeling good. It's about learning and growing effectively, too.
Exactly. And Shetty makes this practical. He has this exercise, get to know your values.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, it prompts you to look at your actual choices, like your habits, how you spend money, who you hang out with.
And connect those back to what you really care about.
Yeah. What are the underlying values behind those choices? And he stresses how important it is that a potential partner respects those core values.
Because if they don't, that's a recipe for conflict down the line, I guess.
For sure. Now, if the idea of being alone feels a bit much.
Yeah, a little daunting maybe.
He gives some concrete things to try. Try this activities, he calls them.
Like what?
Simple stuff, really. Try a new activity by yourself. A cooking class, a hike, anything that gets you into that space of self-reflection.
Okay, manageable.
And another one, which is maybe a bigger step, is traveling alone.
Ooh, okay. That sounds like it could teach you a lot.
Definitely. About independence, what you actually prefer when no one else is influencing your decisions. He even has these funny little lists in the book, like, are you indecisive or decisive? Light packer, heavy packer.
Huh. Things you only really notice when you're relying just on yourself.
Exactly. And all this, the values work, trying things alone, it builds self-confidence.
How so?
Well, by making time for what genuinely matters to you, and by consciously looking at yourself, assessing, improving, you naturally start to feel more secure, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Taking charge of your own growth.
And he mentions the 3 C's of transformation. The first one is coaching.
Not necessarily hiring a coach, though.
No, not always. He means using the resources available. Books, podcasts like this one, maybe online courses, stuff that can guide you.
Gotcha. Using available wisdom.
He tells this nice little story about a woman, Mari, who was scared of handling a butterfly.
Okay.
Instead of getting someone else to do it, she learned how herself.
Yeah.
And that small act of relying on herself, it led to this feeling of, self-discovery, empowerment.
I see. Facing a small fear alone builds inner strength.
Yeah. And connecting this to a bigger picture, Shetty often references the Bhagavad Gita,
Right.
which talks about the power of our senses, the need for self-mastery. The idea is you need some control over your own inner world before you can really handle the ups and downs of relationships.
So you're not just expecting your partner to fix everything when you feel bad?
Exactly. He has this great phrase, don't use your partner as a human Advil.
Ah, okay, vivid.
Just turning to them for instant relief all the time. Now, he does acknowledge that cool neurological stuff happens in close relationships, like your breathing might sync up.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
But the main point is, your fundamental well-being shouldn't totally depend on someone else managing your emotions for you.
So rule 1 is really about building that inner foundation. Self-love first. Understanding your own worth.
Yeah. Knowing you're lovable, basically, as you are, that's the starting point he emphasizes for everything else.
Okay, powerful start. Let's move to rule number 2. Don't ignore your karma. Now, this isn't like cosmic payback or
No, not in the way people often use the word. Shetty uses karma more to talk about samskaras, impressions, deep-seated impressions left by our early experiences. Family, culture, religion, all that stuff.
Ah, okay. The programming we pick up without realizing it.
Exactly. He uses a simple example. How do you pour cereal in milk?
Cereal first, then milk, obviously.
See? That's your samskara. Someone else might do milk first. It's just the automatic way you learn to do it, your ingrained pattern.
Gotcha. And these apply to bigger things than breakfast, I assume.
Definitely. They shape how we think, how we react, how we behave in relationships, and this leads to the karmic cycle, which is
Our choices create effects. Those effects create new impressions, which influence more choices. It's a loop.
okay.
But the key is you can learn from the effects. If a choice based on an old samskara leads to something you don't like, you can actually look at that impression and choose differently next time. You can break the cycle.
So this relates to relationship patterns, like always picking the same type.
Absolutely. If you keep finding yourself in similar unhealthy relationship dynamics, it might be these unexamined samskaras, this karma, driving your choices unconsciously.
How do you even start to unpack that?
Well, he suggests an exercise. Talk to your younger self, a kind of meditation.
Sure.
You think back to an insecurity or a tough time from when you were younger, and you, as your adult self, offer that younger you some advice or comfort.
Why is that helpful?
It helps you see how those old wounds or beliefs might still be affecting you now, how childhood insecurities often fuel adult self-doubt.
That makes sense. Connecting the dots. He also talks about parental gifts and gaps. The things our parents gave us and the things maybe they couldn't or didn't.
And how that shapes our expectations in relationships.
Exactly. He shares a personal story. His family did big birthday presents. His wife's family focused more on quality time. Neither is wrong, but they came in with different expectations.
So knowing where those expectations come from helps you talk about them and adapt.
Precisely. And it's not just about gifts. Maybe you saw your parents argue a lot.
Okay.
That could make you either prone to conflict yourself or maybe super conflict avoidant. The point isn't to blame, but to see the influence, the karma, so you can choose your response more consciously.
Instead of just automatically reacting based on old patterns.
Right. Are your unconscious choices actually serving your relationships? He has another exercise for this. Reflect on your childhood.
What does that involve?
Thinking about tough memories, challenging times, and then, importantly, how your parents responded. He notes that even loving responses can sometimes have unintended side effects, like maybe fostering dependence.
That's quite nuanced.
Yeah, and then it asks about emotional support. What kind of love or support did you wish you'd gotten? What felt missing?
Oof. That sounds like deep work.
It can be. But bringing that stuff into awareness is the first step. Shetty suggests a process for dealing with negative samskaras once you spot them.
Okay, what is it?
First, recognize when they're steering you wrong. Second, remind yourself of a better way, a more conscious choice. And third, replace the old pattern by consistently making that new choice. Recognize, remind, replace.
RRR. Got it. And knowing your own stuff helps you understand your partner's stuff, too.
Totally. You have more empathy for their baggage, their samskaras, when you're aware of your own.
Yeah, he also brings up media, right? Movie magic.
Yes. Another huge source of samskaras about love, often totally unrealistic ones.
Like the grand proposal on the Jumbotron.
Exactly. Or that idea that an engagement ring has to cost 2 or 3 months' salary.
Which was basically a marketing campaign, wasn't it?
Largely, yes. By De Beers. These things get lodged in our heads as how it should be. So true. And what about first impressions?
He mentions Alexander Todorov's research showing how unreliable appearance-based first impressions are. The attractiveness stereotype, we assume good-looking people have other good qualities too.
Even if there's no evidence.
Right. So understanding these media-fuel ideas helps us have more realistic expectations. He also notes that first loves create really strong samskaras.
Why is that?
Because our prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part of the brain, isn't fully developed when we're young. So those early emotional experiences hit harder and stick around.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. And this leads to common patterns in who we fall for.
Yeah, he outlines the 5 types we fall for as typical karmic patterns.
Okay, let's hear him.
One is the chase, being drawn to emotionally unavailable people, maybe linked to having unavailable parents.
Okay.
Then the project, wanting to fix or save someone, focusing on their potential, not who they are now.
Been there.
The halo, being blinded by initial good impressions, ignoring red flags. That's the halo effect bias.
The rebel, attracted to the excitement, the danger maybe. He suggests choosing based on actual qualities, not just the thrill.
That's right.
And the opulent one being drawn primarily to wealth or status, which, attracts people who value that.
So the underlying message is
Yeah.
choose consciously
Yes.
based on your values.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Linking back to rule 1, know yourself, know your values, and choose someone who aligns with that. And be careful about trying to get a partner to fill emotional holes from childhood.
Right. Don't look for external validation for internal gaps.
Precisely. He also points out that just saying I love you can be ambiguous.
How so?
It doesn't automatically mean commitment or wanting the same future. It's powerful, but its meaning isn't fixed. He even mentions surveys suggesting men might say it sooner sometimes.
Interesting. So how do we understand love's development then?
He introduces the 4 phases of love from the Bhakti tradition.
Okay.
Phase 1, attraction. Phase 2, dreams. Phase 3, struggle and growth. And phase 4, trust.
So a progression.
Yeah, describing a deepening intimacy, leading ultimately, ideally, to pure, unconditional love.
And these phases apply beyond romance.
He says so. Friendships, family. It's a cycle of connection you see in important relationships.
Okay, which leads nicely into rule 3. Define love before you think it, feel it, or say it.
Exactly. This is about understanding what love really means beyond just that initial buzz.
So phase 1, attraction. You mentioned the brain chemistry.
Yeah, it's fascinating. That rush, that's dopamine and norepinephrine surging, like brain adrenaline, makes you feel euphoric, focused.
Yes, you also said serotonin drops.
Yeah, interestingly, serotonin is linked to calm and well-being. The drop might contribute to that slightly obsessive, anxious feeling you can get early on. Intense focus.
Right, that mix of excitement and nerves.
It's a hopeful time. You see the best in them. But to go deeper, he talks about moving from small talk to deep talk.
You're getting beyond the surface stuff.
Yeah, asking questions that reveal more. Personal stories, quirks, vulnerabilities, imperfections, getting real.
And he has an exercise for this too.
Prepare for date 1. It encourages you to think about how you would answer those deeper questions. It's about self-knowledge too, not just grilling the other person.
So you can articulate your own stuff. And understanding their goals is key early on.
Absolutely. What do they want out of life? And crucially, does that align with your vision? Are you interested in having their goals become part of your life? Big mismatches here can cause problems later.
For sure. Then phase 2 is dreams.
Yeah, that period of shared hope, envisioning a future together, it's often optimistic.
But then comes phase 3, struggle and growth. Sounds less fun.
Maybe, but he argues it's essential. No relationship avoids challenges. You're 2 different people. You'll inevitably hit bumps.
Where do these bumps usually come from?
All sorts of places. He uses his own example, again, different family dinner rituals. Seems small, but it comes from different backgrounds, habits, norms.
Things you don't even think about until they clash.
Exactly. He lists other examples too, snoring, being late, bigger things like managing money differently, different temperaments, maybe long distance, or fundamental disagreements about kids.
So what happens when you hit these struggles?
He says there are basically 3 routes. 1, you realize it's a fundamental mismatch and you leave.
Okay.
2, you decide to work through it together, communicate, compromise. This is where growth happens for both of you and the relationship.
Right.
Or 3, you accept it, you decide this difference is something you can live with, and you adjust your expectations.
Acceptance. Okay, that makes sense. And after struggle comes?
Phase 4, trust. And this isn't automatic, it's earned. Slowly.
How?
Through consistency, people doing what they say they'll do, honesty, Actions matching words over time.
And he breaks trust down.
Into 3 levels, yeah. Practical trust, are they reliable day to day? Do they follow through?
Okay.
Emotional trust, is their character sound? Do they have integrity? Do they treat you and others well?
And the third?
Well, he stresses they're interconnected. A break in practical trust, like always being late, can erode emotional trust eventually, and vice versa.
Yeah, I could see that. And trust can be tested.
Oh, for sure. Life throws curveballs. Identifying weak spots in trust and addressing them is important for keeping the foundation strong.
And the result of strong trust is feeling safe.
Exactly, that deep sense of security in the relationship.
Any exercises for building trust?
Yep. A daily trust exercise. Just consciously notice and maybe even acknowledge when your partner does something reliable, however small.
Reinforcing the positive.
And a monthly dreams one. Pick a current struggle or challenge and find something related that you can work towards together in the next month. Builds that shared purpose again.
Nice. Actively building shared goals. And these phases aren't just a one-time thing.
No, he says it's cyclical. You'll likely revisit these phases, attraction, dreams, struggle, trust, throughout any long-term significant relationship. It's a continuous cycle.
Okay, wow. So, wrapping up this part of the deep dive.
Yeah, quite a bit to chew on from just the first few rules.
The big takeaways seem to be, first, that solitude isn't just okay. It's actually crucial for knowing yourself, loving yourself. That's the starting block.
Absolutely. And second, understanding our karma, those deep-seated patterns and influences from our past, is key to making conscious choices in relationships, rather than just repeating old mistakes.
Recognizing those samskaras.
Yeah.
And third, really thinking about what love means beyond the initial attraction. Understanding its phases, the challenges, the importance of trust.
Defining it before you dive headfirst into feeling it or saying it.
So ultimately, preparing for love isn't really about finding some perfect person.
Right. It's more about becoming the person who is ready for healthy love by doing that inner work first, self-awareness, self-love.
That really shifts the focus inward, doesn't it?
It does. So maybe a final thought for you listening this week.
Yeah.
What's one small step, just one tiny thing you could do to embrace a little more solitude, maybe just 10 minutes, and use that time to think about one core value or maybe one pattern you've noticed in your relationships. Just observe. See what comes up when you give yourself that space.
A little intentional self-reflection.
Yeah.
Great food for thought.